Hello, I'm James Bogue. This is the Yoga Top 40. First entry on the chart, Sam Brown, Stop. Quite a tune. She could sing, could Sam Brown. Well, she still can as far as I'm aware. My mother liked this song. So why are we starting with Stop? Starting with Stop, isn't that a bit strange? Sometimes I say one of the most basic yoga practices, if we're lucky, we get taught it in kindergarten or the first school we go to. And sometimes when I'm teaching, I talk about how school has so much to answer for. School forces into boxes, teaches to conform, restricts, hinders, and often represses intelligence. But the school also teaches many useful things, if we're lucky. And the first school I went to, one of the useful things I was taught was known in the England of my childhood as the Green Cross Code. And the Green Cross Code is all about how to safely cross the road. But the Green Cross Code is also basically how to practice yoga. What is the Green Cross Code? Stop, look, listen. More explicitly, stop, not in the sense of trying to stop the world, because yoga recognizes the world is dynamic, it's always changing, it's always moving. But everything in existence, as well as existing and having a pure essence, and as well as being subject to dynamism because it exists in this world which is always changing. Nature, what does nature literally mean? It means that which is born. Nat, the root of the word nature. The natal stream to which the salmon return when they run. Many Latinate languages, like in French, for example, naître, to be born. In Italian, Spanish as well, we have the nat root. Nature is that which is born, and everything that's born, what do we know about it? It's going to die. And in between those two great changes, what can we guarantee? Change. So everything in existence has its pure existing essence. It's also subject to dynamism. But everything that's in existence also has inertia. Once something has begun to operate in a certain way, it is more likely to continue in that way than to make a dramatic change. If we are to make dramatic changes in our psyche, for example, in our patterns of behavior, then we need to introduce new influences to invite a shift of direction, to counter the inertia of the pre-existing habitual ways. So stop, in terms of the Green Cross Code of how to practice yoga in the world, means not to try to stop the world, but to check in and inquire. Am I acting here as I would really like to act? If not, why not? What am I playing at? This is my chance now, here, this is life. Am I being dominated by the accrued inertia of my habits? Sometimes habits are very helpful, useful, but sometimes habits become obsolete. They can become self-sabotaging. And so in yoga, in the sense of stop, look, listen, is can I invite the depth of presence to check in and see where am I really acting from? Am I enacting, embodying, bringing forth my deepest longing? Or am I being dominated by my accrued patterns and partial ideas? And if so, what can I do about it practically? So when I stop and I give myself space in which to inquire, am I acting how I would really like to act in this world? Am I moving in the way that I would like to move? This is not necessarily the easiest thing to do in the world we live in, because the world we live in seems to be accelerating almost by the day. And so to stop, this requires heroic courage, it requires strength, it requires fortitude, it requires presence, all qualities that are intrinsic to the yogic method. So first of all, stop, but then look. So when they say it in the Green Cross Code, they stop, look both ways. Both ways. Not just the habitual way, but I would expand it to say look all around. Look in ways that reach beyond your habitual way of looking. This to me is one of the most foundational practices in yoga. Can we look in ways that reach beyond our habitual ways of looking? This also is not particularly easy, because we're creatures of habit, again. We tend to look through certain filters. We look through the lenses of our accrued conditionings. We see things partially, as we have practiced seeing them, as we have trained ourselves to see, So, to look in ways that reach beyond our habitual ways of looking, to look all around, this requires practice. This is one of the hallmarks of the Yogic Warrior. The Yogic Warrior who acts with discernment to serve the yogic sovereign, the sovereign whose duty is the well-being of the whole field. And the Yogic Warrior serves the sovereign, the one who takes responsibility for the actions that occur within this field, the one who takes responsibility for how we meet life. And the warrior brings, as far as possible, 360-degree equivision to support the sovereign. 360-degree global equivision. What does this mean? It doesn't just mean looking both ways. Now, I mentioned my opinion that sometimes at school, not only do we get taught useful things, we also sometimes get taught rather limiting things, things which confine our intelligence. One of the ways that schooling can sometimes confine our intelligence is by teaching us just enough to think we know something. In yoga, 2 prerequisites for yoga, 2 qualifications for yoga. 1, to be born. Okay, I tick that box. I'm here. 2nd qualification or prerequisite for yoga, to know that I do not know. To know that I'm not in a state of yoga, that I'm not in a state of complete cohesion. I'm not yet fully all of who I really am. The illusion that I know, and I've got it all worked out, is terribly dangerous. Now, when I was at school, one of the terribly dangerous, tragic ideas that I was taught was that in order to consider a question thoroughly, we must consider both sides of the question, as if a question has but 2 sides. How many sides does any question have? As many as there are onlookers. It's a great start to consider an opposing counter view to the one that we're already familiar with, but it's a start. And I would suggest that I feel that if we want to understand an issue thoroughly, we have to go beyond looking at just one point of view and its apparent counter. We have to explore in a nuanced way. We have to invite multiple positions if we're going to come to any real understanding of reality, because reality is complex, reality is nuanced, it's not a black and white reality. And the Indian system and yoga reminds us of this. Life is full of colour and flavour. So never mind just looking 2 ways, look all around as best as we can. So stop long enough to check, where am I acting from? Am I actually attuning to my conscience and allowing my actions to be the expression of my deepest longing, so that when it comes to the end of the day, I'll be able to sleep in peace because I know I gave myself fully and authentically to the opportunities of this day? Look all around. Look in ways that reach beyond my habitual ways of looking, in ways that invite me to think, in ways that reach beyond what I might normally imagine. So I can invite new perspectives and expansions. And then the 3rd part, listen. Now when we hear the word listen, in Sanskrit, there's this feature of Sanskrit is that sometimes, for example, when we talk about the 5 sense powers of hearing, sense of touch, seeing, tasting and smelling, these are grouped in the group of 5, and hearing is at the head of that group. So when we talk about stop, look, listen in terms of yoga, listen means not just listen with our ears, but to listen with all of our being, to recruit all of our sense powers, all of our bodily housed intelligences to really be attentive. And to listen deep, to listen inside, to quieten so we can heed the voice of conscience, so we can see where the pilot light of our conscience is pointing towards. And in order to access the guidance of our conscience, it can be very helpful to stop and to look all around. The type of deployment or recruitment of intelligence that it takes to look all around, that invites all members of the gang of our being, all the different powers of our intelligence, of our senses, of our bodies, of our minds, of our physicalities, of our emotions. When we invite all of these into the present moment, we invite then more of this experience of coming together, gathering as a unified whole. And the idea in yoga is that when we do that, we attune our system. We bring ourselves into a state that is more a state of at-one-ment. And when we're in that state of greater at-one-ment, greater attunement, greater cohesion, congruence, integration, balance and harmony, we clear the pathway back to connect more and more easily to that guidance of our conscience, to the wisdom of our soul. So, first entry into the Yoga Top 40, Sam Brown, stop. Key teaching, stop, look, listen. The Green Cross Code, how to safely cross the road and how to skillfully navigate this amazing gift of a human birth from the point of view of yoga. Thank you.